I have, much to the detriment of my sanity, the human race in general, and now to your day, been furnished with a complete copy of Harley Quinn Fartacular, silent but, 2 T's, deadly, which I will be showing you today. Why? Why am I exposing you to this? That's an excellent question. Why should you be made to suffer the final moments of Harley Quinn as DC fastens a plastic bag around her head and tightens it until the thrashing stops? Well, it's because I feel somewhat honor bound, really, on account of having recently made an hour-long video talking about the corrosive degradation of Harley Quinn, a once amazing character that struck a real chord with the audience to the point where she is the only character in the last half-century to be able to stand up alongside the greats, the likes of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman as a core pillar of the Detective Comics universe. And so I feel obligated to witness her last moments of dignity on this earth, which have already long since passed, as there will be no dignity afforded to Harley Quinn in this comic, where, amongst other things, she wears Plastic Man as an adult diaper. No crime committed in the history of humanity, no excess leaps to mind immediately that can quite compare to the utter, unflinching, absolute hatred that DC must have for some reason for this character. Anyways, we've wasted enough time on the preamble. Let's dive on in, shall we? As fittingly, it starts with a Green Arrow cover. A lantern, excuse me. It's the correct color, and it does seem rather gaseous as well, so, you know, good on DC for having a sense of humor, I suppose. It's going to be the only humor you will be exposed to today, unless you're really in the mood for fart jokes, which I hope you are, because that's all we're going to be seeing today. So our wonderful story here starts with Harley and her abusive lesbian roommate, Poison Ivy, breaking wind. And Harley getting kind of turned on by that. And then chasing after Ivy saying, "Give me some of that eau de poo." Off to a cracking good start right there, but Ivy doesn't want to share any of her eau de poo with Harley Quinn, which upsets her greatly. And hey, at least she's still the classic DC Harley Quinn, right? Stabbing people for basically no reason with an ice cream cone, which on the one hand seems to create quite the arterial spray, only to seemingly have inflicted no damage the moment thereafter. One of the many problems DC has with Harley Quinn is that they can't make up their fucking mind as to whether or not she's a crazy psychopath or not, but we're not going to get into that here. The flyer that the bad man drops is to the Gotham Museum of Art presentation of the art of fart, a subtle plot point, and we've even got an Ace Ventura tribute, at least I hope this is an Ace Ventura tribute, as Harley Quinn bursts forth from the arse of a goat. One of several sentences I never expected to utter in this life or hopefully the next. This isn't the worst part, because if it was just Harley, then, I mean, at least the art is okay compared to some of the other current DC stuff. This isn't awful, which should tell you just how low the bar has become. But no, it gets worse, as we are introduced to a fairy tale creature whose gaseous stomach allows her to rocket herself across the room on a pillar of fart fire. She's also able to fire balls of fire from her rectum through her giant grandmom pants. Somehow. I mean, how does it get set on fire? So obviously it must be set on fire after exiting the rectum, and also after passing through the grandmother's panties. I don't see any ignition system, so... Dutch oven. I didn't notice her name until now, but this is... I'm just going to move on past that. I don't want to address the idea of Dutch. You know what? Let's seek refuge in feminism instead. Finally, an opportunity, a moment in my life where I am relieved to see a feminist talking point in a DC comic book with, why is this town full of glass ceilings? Please clap. You know, I thought of using the Descaluga joke. You know, my nice little Descaluga, and pull it up and go like, I'm just gonna self-delete myself at this. But the problem is, I'd be reaching for the Descaluga every single panel. It would get old very quickly, and then I'd go searching for an actual firearm. So let's keep any sharp objects or things that go boom away from Arch for the foreseeable future, shall we? That's one joke, and we also have this one where, I can't believe you're making such a big deal of this. It's just a little toot. Because the entire reason why Harley Quinn is going on a rampage is because she desperately wants to smell Ivy's ass. They make us ashamed. Don't give in to the patriarchy, babe. I don't care what you do with your bodies, as long as it isn't against the law. Please don't pull Batman into this. And men makes the laws. It's cringe, it's wrong, but at least it's not fecal matter. It's something. Don't worry though, we'll be back to it immediately, as Harley Quinn, in an effort to attempt to overcome a curse which has her farting constantly, tries to sew herself an incredibly tight suit which immediately breaks under the violence of her farts. And so she needs to find an alternative. Well, that alternative is come up after a vivid female dream of a man sniffing her ass, and then comes the part where she decides that using Plastic Man as an adult diaper is the logical continuation of this comic book series, and I sort of kinda can't disagree. But believe it or not, it does actually still get worse. I know you're probably wondering how at this point. Well, let me tell you. All of this shit and fart and stench that is gathered up inside of the Plastic Man adult diaper makes Harley inflate. Which means that she is no longer capable of fitting through small doorways, and so Plastic Man will need to vent the fart and the probably literal shit through his nose. Pickle pizza ain't bad. I thought Battlefield Gothic, Battlefleet Gothic, Battletech Gothic, there we go. I thought that was bad. I thought that might be an example of a company just having completely lost the sight of what the hell it was, what it was doing, who its customers was, who it was intended to serve. I was wrong. That is merely just a moment of crazy. That's just like hitting your head too hard whilst, passing through a particularly low doorway, or after a severe fall, perhaps, tumbling down a set of stairs, smashing your head upon every step along the way. That's the kind of stuff that produces Battletech Gothic. This is something significantly worse. This entire thing, which ends with Harley breaking her curse, because it wasn't a curse, she's lactose intolerant, despite the fact that she's been eating cheese this whole time, finally gets her just reward from Poison Ivy. She farts at her. This entire thing is literally a piece of fetish material, 40 pages long, released for the sole purpose of yet further taking a character who couldn't fall much lower than Margot Robbie's actual, genuine, unironic prostitute style and dragging her through the literal mud a little bit further. The ass mud in this case. The literal, actual, unironically, rectally produced shit of both Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Malice is no longer an adequate word anymore. Malice is pushing an old person down a set of stairs. Malice is, doing various bombing runs in the Gaza region, or having a particular distaste for certain peoples in either South Africa or mid-century Germany. That's malice. This is something else. This is the next step. This is rectally inserted aliens invading Earth for the sole purpose of turning us into anal rape breeding stock with the intent of wiping us off the Earth and then eating our entrails, which at that point will probably be marinated in pain and suffering of our immortal souls. That's the level we're at now. As DC actually hates Harley Quinn, there's no other explanation. There is no reasonable explanation for DC treating one of their best-selling characters like this. Could you imagine doing this to Wonder Woman? Could you imagine doing this to Superman? Could you imagine doing this to Batman? Hell, pretty much the entirety of the DC roster would be considered above this, but not Harley. Not poor, innocent, undeserving Harley Quinn, whose entire plotline was intended to set up for a way to redeem her. Now, we have her obsessively smelling shit, whilst using other superheroes as adult diapers. Detective Comics. Never has the name been any more misleading than now. As this rather prophetic drawing from I think 2016 points out yet again, and I am still less whorish than the new Harley. I'm going to go and wash my eyeballs with soap now. Thank you all very much for exposing yourselves to this, and I urge you to do the same rapidly. Have a good day, if you can.